In this episode of the BHD podcast, we are going to talk about the 4am Club and the election heard around the world. A lot of you listening are probably members of the 4am Club. And if you don't know, now you know. I'm going to tell you all about it. I'm going to talk about my own origin story of me and the 4am Club. And I am going to talk about what this means if you were activated and you're like, what do I do now? Okay, so let's talk about it. In 2024, November 5th, was an election, a huge election in the United States. Kamala Harris was going against DJT. And what happened, my sister and I were watching MSNBC, and we were watching them call the states so fast, and it just felt like something was really, really off, like really off. We were like, this is really weird. States that would never get called super fast were being called fast. My sister was watching some of the numbers ring up, like in some of the major cities. And so like some of the cities where, you know, the big populations vote blue, when the numbers would come in, his numbers would go up and her numbers wouldn't change at all. Then we were like, this is so weird, but we didn't say anything to each other. I just could feel it in my body that something was off, and my sister felt like something was off. And so we just looked at the time and we were like, you know what, let's just go to bed. There was an elephant in the room that we didn't need to, my sister and I, we have this telepathy thing. We don't need to say anything. We're just like, let's go to bed. And then we know when we wake up, we'll wake up and we'll see. And so we went to bed, and then it was probably about 3:55. I woke up and I knew what happened. I knew what happened. And I didn't even need to look, but I felt a peace. This was not 2016 all over again. I felt like there's something off. It'll get found out. Yeah, it is what it is. And so I didn't say anything, but I couldn't go back to sleep. So I'm on TikTok looking at my favorite people, and everybody was saying something's off. But I just didn't pay any attention because I was like, yeah, something feels off. But I was very calm, very collected, didn't feel the, need to cry or anything, right? It wasn't 2016 again. It really wasn't. And so fast forward, it's probably about 9 in the morning. My sister comes into my room because she decided she didn't want to look. She just came in my room and she looked at me, and she didn't even need to ask. I looked at her because she's telepathic again. We're telepathic. And she looked at me and I knew what she was asking, and I shook my head and she fell to the ground and she started crying. This uncontrollable, shakable cry. It was a cry heard around the world. It was a cry of ancestors. It was a cry of women, all of the witches, everyone that's ever been burned by the patriarchy. It was a cry of ancestors, slaves, like anyone that has been like wronged. It was a cry that was so deep, and I hated seeing my sister so upset. So I'm crying. We're on the ground crying together. It was very cathartic, right? It was really cathartic. And so, I hold her, she cries, she goes back in the room. I know she's still upset, and I'm like, no, I need her to understand what I know, that there's something off, right? There's something off. And so I go to my sister and I tell her there's something off, and she's like, yeah, but she's, not there yet. She's still really upset, and she's like, what the hell? And, all the things. And so I go back and I'm looking on TikTok and I see these creators, Spirituality with Sam. If you haven't followed her on TikTok or YouTube or whatever, follow her. And she says out of her mouth everything I was saying and thinking, everything. And so I show my sister the video, and it's exactly what she needed to hear. She peps up. She feels like she's released all of the tears and all of that. She feels like she's really released that. She's come back into her regulation and her body, and she's like, okay. And so I didn't know this, but maybe a day or two later, I find another creator called Gia Prism. If you're not following her, you need to get on TikTok and YouTube. Gia Prism tells her 4 a.m. story, and then it turns out that there were over 1 million women who woke up between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. and also knew something was wrong, but also felt that peace. It was our intuition waking us up. Most of us, like for me, Gia, spirituality, Sam, we've been doing this work for years. I've been doing this my whole life. I've been an intuitive, a psychic. I've been, doing this work my entire life. And they've been doing this work also. So we had been awakened a long, long, long time ago. But a lot of these people were being awoken, and they were waking up to their power, waking up to their intuition, waking up to realizing that I feel like I'm watching something that feels like it's a totally different timeline. Like you saw a lot of TikToks and a lot of things. People were like, am I on a different timeline? How do I change this timeline? I don't want to be on this timeline where this person wins. I want to be on this timeline where this person wins. It was all of the things. And what what I need you to know is that one, it doesn't matter who you voted for, or even if you didn't vote at all. What matters is most of the people that are a part of what Gia calls the 4 a.m. club, and you'll hear me start to use it, the 4 a.m. clubbers, the 4 a.m. fam. It's women that were being called to trust in their intuition and not care what things look like outside of them. It was a call to rise back into and awaken your sense of the truth, of intuition, and trusting it. And a lot of the people that woke up are the second wave of light leaders who are remembering who they are. And it's not a call for these people to convince everyone else, like, this is what I know, this is what you need to know. It was a call for you to clean up your side of the street. In the episode before this, I talked about the 3D, 5D split and how really you're being called, like everything is coming up again. Everything. It feels like we're reliving cycles over and over again. And you are being called to end the cycle for good now. And so anything that maybe ancestors or past lifetime, anything you've experienced, you're going to be like, I thought I healed this already. And it's coming up again, and it's coming up probably even more powerfully. You are being called to do the necessary shadow work to help yourself shift that and decide that you are complete with that cycle once and for all. You are doing the work that your ancestors are cheering you on to do. They're like, yes, yes. You rose your hand and volunteered to come into the earth at this time, in this day and age, in this body right now, because you knew that this is what you're going to have to do, that you were going to be a helper of helping Gaia raise in frequency, helping the earth raise in its frequency, helping this 3D, 5D split happen. And you were woken up on November 6th to 2024 at, between 3 and 5 in the morning. Hello, 4 a.m. club. Welcome, welcome, because you needed to do this work. The work of the shadow work, the work of trusting your intuition, the work of being love even when others aren't love. So it's really funny because, like I call this the election heard around the world, it really is the election that activated all the light leaders. It activated a ton of more of light leaders because there needed to be a lot more people, because there are going to be a lot of people who maybe chose something different or who were in a different frequency who are also going to be waking up, and they need to know, how do they do the shadow work? How do they, own this frequency? How do they look at things in a more joyful way? How do they not allow themselves to be caught up in the circumstances. And you were awakened at 4 a.m. during that time so that you could start to lean into your intuition, so that you can clean up your side of the street, and so that you can be an example for all of the others that are going to be waking up too. I'm going to say it again. This is not your call to try and convince everyone else of what you know. Nope, this is their call for you to step up and really start to shift and clear triggers and become unbothered. And if you need help unbothered, my masterclass is the perfect place to start. It is 90 minutes masterclass that teaches you how to be unbothered. I talk a lot more about the 3D 5D split, what that looks like. I also answered 3 hours of questions, all in your private own podcast. It's in Hello Audio so that you can do this listening while you're doing your walk, while you're doing your work, and you really can go step by step on how to shift triggers and all of the things that come up for you that you're ready to clear once and for all. Because let me tell you something, this was about more than an election. Yes, there are really freaky things that are happening. Yes, things that don't make sense. Yes, there was probably some tweaking and some little things that happened that will be found out. Don't worry. Don't stress your head about that. Don't worry about that. That's not the reason why you're here listening to this. You're here listening to this because this is about raising the earth, raising in frequency, and the eventual split of the 3D and the 5D. And you get to choose which one you're going to be on. Not that anyone is better than the other, but it is just a different experience, and your soul knows what you're ready for. And by the way, if you're listening to this, this is telling you that you're aligned with the 5D, because you wouldn't be listening to this if you weren't. So, light leader, go grab the Unbothered Masterclass. Like I said, there's a special link for you, a special code, Boujee Diva, because you are part of the Boujee Healed Diva podcast community. And start doing this work, because as you do this work, more people are going to rise with you, and they are going to realize that this is the work that they need to do too. And then they're going to be like, how did you do the work? And then you'll be able to walk them through that. So hello 4 a.m. clubbers. Welcome to the 5D. And here's to you allowing yourself to own your power and to no longer let anything else stop you from being the power that you are. So hugs, kisses, and all the feels. Keep bit bougie, stay divine, stay divine, and don't forget to follow, subscribe, give 5 stars to this podcast, and share it with all of your friends, because we are changing the world.